Hello and welcome to the Love and Meaning podcast. I am Christelle Robinson-Tiedemann, your host. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about talking to God. In the Love and Meaning podcast, I discuss all things spirituality, inner work, personal development. This is an ode to over a decade of my own journey into my own self-discovery, into the meaning of life, and what I came to along this journey with many ups and downs. A lot of the lessons that I share on this podcast are lessons that I've learned the hard way, are lessons that I've learned through making beautiful mistakes. And what I have realized is that we make the meaning in our life. It can be a great meaning, it can be a not so great meaning, but I realize that I am truly the creator of my reality, and I get to make meaning in my life. And when it comes to this search for love, which most of us are on, it begins with the self. And so this is an ode to self-love, and an ode to creating the meaning in our life with intention. So welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. On today's episode, we are talking about talking to God. So this is an interesting topic because you think it's something that you don't need to learn or that you wouldn't need to teach. But we do. What I've come to realize is we do, because I wish somebody taught me. I wish way back when somebody taught me. And I guess it's not a complete outright that we need to learn. Like, if I think about children, kids, I think about myself. If you are in a truly authentic state, if you are not in your conditioning, so you are truly in your deconditioned state, you are fully connected, fully and deeply connected to your intuition, then yeah, maybe it isn't something that you need to learn or that we would need to teach. But the thing is that most of us are in a conditioned state. Most of us are in a state of shoulds and supposed to's. And the way that we have been, the way that we commune with God, the way that we pray is just a result of regurgitating what we were told to do. And this is where this conversation begins. What I want to discuss today is speaking to source energy, talking to God, the universe, whatever name that you choose. To me, is doing so in a way that leads to an impact in your life. It's not just words. It's not just lip service. It's not just fluff. It's not check mark. I did that. I did the thing that I was supposed to do, which is basically what I did every time I was told to say my prayers as a kid. This is what I was doing. Check mark. When we truly tap into what talking to God, talking to the universe, talking to source is, you've tapped into a very powerful resource. And it's underused. It's definitely underused, and it's also misused. So I might get a lot of flack for this episode, but we're doing it anyways because this has been really impactful for me of late. and it's something that matters a lot to me because this episode is for the younger version of Christelle. So I can't help but think of when I was a kid. I was raised Catholic, and my mother taught my sibling and I to pray. And I distinctly remember when we were learning the different types of prayers that they were. The only type of prayer that I actually felt like I liked doing, and I would do it because there were certain days where you're supposed to do different types of prayers. Like we used to say the rosary a lot. I'm not going to get into it, but there were different types of prayers that you were supposed to do. And one type of prayer was called glorious. Was it called glorious? But it was basically like gratitude. It was praise, gratitude, thanks. It was joy based. It was joyful based. I loved that type of prayer. And if I was left to my own devices, that is what I did. That is all I did as a kid. What an intuitive little human being I was. Why did I like that type of prayer? Because it felt good. It felt good. It felt like something I wanted to do. It felt like something that I enjoyed, and ultimately, without consciously knowing it, it actually felt like I connected with something. And this is the main thing that I want to talk about today when I'm talking about talking to God, communing with the universe. What matters is that we're tapping in with our full selves, that we're feeling. It's not just words, it's not just rote, because it's the same thing with affirmations, and you've heard me talk about this before. Affirmations that you aren't feeling from your bones, from like deep inside of you, are just words. It's just you repeating a lot of words. And in fact, sometimes you're doing the opposite of what you want, because if you're saying an affirmation and there's no feeling behind it, your subconscious, your inner self is saying liar, liar, pants on fire. And so you're actually not in the frequency that is a match to what it is that you want. The words that you're saying are not in that frequency. You're reminding yourself of how not in your frequency every single time you say it. If you say it and your subconscious says liar, you're actually doing the opposite. And it's the same thing with prayer. When we're communing with source energy, if it isn't in attunement with you, it's not doing anything. It's just words. But there is a power. So I'm not going to sit here and have a conversation about, like, magic. I love magic. Not that I wouldn't have a conversation about magic. I would. My favorite novels are fantasy. No. But I'm not saying, like, in a magical way, tapping into the power of prayer. I mean this quite literally. If you think about an apology, what is the difference between, okay, fine, I'm sorry, and, wow, I should never have spoken to you in that way. It was not my intention to be hurtful, but I recognize that that was, and I'm so sorry, and I will do better in the future. What's the difference between those two? You could call them both apologies. What's the difference? One has power. One has an essence. It has a pull. It has a force within it that draws together. One is a connector. And the thing that the one has, that is the connector, and it's the second one, obviously, is the frequency of truth. The frequency of truth is the most powerful frequency that there is. This is one of my favorite teachings from one of my mentors. And it's true. I feel it. And that apology example is a perfect example. There was something about the frequency of truth that has a draw to it, has a pull to it. It attracts. And so it's the same thing with prayer. That frequency of truth, there's a power to that. So if you want to have an impact when you're communicating with source energy, and this can be so simple, it really is not a matter of there's a right way and there's a wrong way. Just allow it to be the truth. Allow it to come from full alignment with you. It can look any way that you want. Some of the ways that I've heard people pray that I was moved in listening to them pray was just like, hey God, I haven't talked to you in a minute. I've been contemplating on some things, and this is what I've come to. These are the things that I want, and I see and I feel you with me in so many ways, even when I'm not paying attention. And I see it now. I see the power that you hold. And I know that I'm not alone. So these are my desires, and I trust in you. I trust in you, and thank you. Thank you for X. Thank you for Y. Thank you for Z. Thank you for not H. That thing that I wanted so badly. And in the not receiving of it, that was the most beautiful lesson of my life. Like, I see how you work behind the scenes, and your viewpoint and your reach is so much farther than I could ever see in my humanness. I see that. And I thank you so much. This is what I desire. And I know that I wouldn't have that desire if you didn't place that within me. There's something that I am meant to provide to the universe, contribute to the universe through this desire. And so I surrender it to you, and I trust in you. And thank you. I promise to do my part, and I will follow the signs. That is not the type of prayer that I was taught growing up. But that has impact. That has impact. So there is a knowingness inside of that kind of communication with source. And what I recommend, what I'm inviting you to do, is just have a conversation with the force that is, the powers that be. Have conversations of truth like that. What that does is it reminds you are not alone. And I highly recommend that you check out last week's episode, which was all about my spirituality back to basics, like the basic core beliefs and tools that I rely upon, that are my touchstones that I had forgotten, and I needed a reminder. So I created one for all of us. And one of them in there is that I am not creating alone. Talk to God. It is as soon as I'm in the place of, hey, source energy, dear source, the moment I write in my journal, dear source, the connection is made. Because I am truly stepping out of my very skewed viewpoint for a minute and remembering that I'm not alone. I have an entire universe conspiring in my favor. I have the greatest concierge on my side. It's so easy to forget, and especially for those of us who are trying to create big things in this life, like the visionaries of the world. I'm talking to you the most. Like, it is so easy to forget when we're working hard to build things, to make a difference, to make an impact, to leave a legend. It's easy to forget that it's not just little old you against the world. There's nothing that we're doing without source. And so as soon as you begin that prayer, and that prayer is not just like words, it's like, hey, hi. Immediately the recognition is there, the acknowledgement is there. And then when you start to just speak your truth, this is going to be the weirdest thing I'm going to say today, if not all of it being weird. But this is how you really know that you're doing it right. And it's that God talks back. Source talks back. It's a communication. Communication is not just the delivery, it's also the receipt. It's a communication. It's a conversation. When you're doing it right, that's what it is. And the way that source talks back is in knowing this. There's a feeling. There's a feeling of being heard. There's a feeling of being expanded. And this feeling doesn't always happen in the moment. Like if you are in a low, like there have been times when I'm in a low, right? Like I'm in a deep low. I'm not in my highest frequencies, and I talk to God. I'm reaching out, right? I might not be in the frequency to feel it, but this is what I mean when I say that God talks back. Might not be exactly in that moment, but when I'm in my frequency of truth and I'm just like, this is what it is. This is my desire. Thank you. Like genuinely, thank you so much. I'm ready to do my part. I will have dreams. I will walk out into the world and see signs, synchronicities. Like I can forget about it and walk through my day, and the day is full of acknowledgements of that conversation. I'm telling you, go ahead, try it. Go ahead and try it right now. You will receive confirmation from source energy in all these ways, as long as you're open to it. So I put it out there. I put my prayer out there. And then I walk into life, and it is an 100% kind of thing that I'm talking about, where source responds. I actually feel the response immediately in that connection, in that hello. I feel the response immediately in that reminder that I'm not alone. It feels kind of like a warm hug. And then my entire day is always just a series of acknowledgements. So one of the things, and here's the thing is like, I forget sometimes. I forget to talk to God. And that's why I made last week's episode, because of those reminders, because it's so important. So I have these reminders now everywhere so that I can use the most basic tools, like tap in the most simplest and easiest of ways to my power. So in talking to God on a daily basis, I'm connected and having those synchronicities all the time. Imagine how that calls in your manifestations. Like, follow the breadcrumbs. There's endless breadcrumbs when you keep that connection. So the thing is, yes, I do forget. And every single time I've ever found myself in a place where I haven't communicated with God for some time and I'm somehow in a low, it will hit me at some point, like, simply ask for what you want. Ask and it is given. Abraham Hicks. Simply ask. As soon as I get out of my own way and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, okay. And I just close my eyes, touch my heart, breathe, connect to my body, connect to the environment around me, feel the air, feel everything, and then just ask. There is an immediate rush of knowing, of acknowledgement, of recognition that I'm not alone. It really reminds me to drop the veil of my own limitations. And so my invitation to you today is to start simply asking Source for assistance, for what you want, just putting it out there. However it feels good to you. Just talk. Just commune. Just say hey. Just say where you're at. See what comes up for you. Suspend all your doubts for a second. Just, all right, I'll pick you guys back up in a minute. just hold off for a second. And just speak from your heart, genuinely. You actually cannot get it wrong. It is simply in the acknowledgement. And I like to say things like, I give you permission to help. I give you permission to intercede. I give you permission to interrupt me when I'm in a blind, headstrong tunnel vision. I give you full permission to do whatever you need to do to show me, give me whatever I need for this thing that I desire. I like to say that because, one, I remind myself to get out of my own way and to allow my intuition to lead me and to allow Source to supply me with the connections. That's one. And then number two, you really do connect in that moment. You really do allow for it to happen, because nothing is happening in from Source to us without us giving our consent. Like, that's not how that goes, right? So it is such a simple thing. But just taking a few minutes to talk to Source every single day is going to make such a huge impact in terms of bringing in what it is that you want. I've been talking about intuition a lot lately, and here we go again. And actually, this is a great opportunity for me to remind everyone that the course Awakening Intuition is starting on September 20th. This is not my course. This is a course that I'm an affiliate of. Lauren Staggers of the Intuitive One. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant intuitive being that she is doing us all such a beautiful favor and creating this course, Awakening Intuition, to teach us how to connect with our intuition and to have this as an ongoing process, something that we are able to go back to and use to keep that connection, to grow that connection, to deepen that connection, because it's huge. And this entire conversation about communing with Source, about talking to God, about prayer, is truly a conversation of connecting to intuition, because this is what the thing is. Talking to God, and however that looks for you, is simply a matter of you allowing the door to be open to realize that you are not doing this alone, and therefore you will be provided with signs, with steps, with nudges, with clues, with the information, the knowingness that you're asking for. And that doesn't come from your logic. It's going to come from a completely out of nowhere place that you can't necessarily explain. But this is how Source communicates with us. We were given these dense and sensitive physical apparatuses for that reason exactly. Our bodies have such powerful abilities that in our modern day, where we're so mind focused, we've completely forgotten about. And intuition is simply our body's knowingness, the tuning fork that it is, picking up on what is out there, what is being communicated to it through frequency that we decided at some time, whenever back when, didn't exist, and then passed that on, and then disconnected ourselves. And then those who are the most connected just seem to like know stuff, get stuff. You know what I mean? It's our greatest superpower. So truly, communing with Source is awakening your intuition. And so I really do recommend that you jump on this course. It's still in early bird pricing, so this is a great opportunity to get it if you want to. I'm going to be right there with you guys doing it, so I cannot wait. It's going to be absolutely spectacular. We could not be learning from a more expert, brilliant, fully embodied being than Lauren. So absolutely spectacular. But even, beyond taking the course, like us connecting to our intuition, looking for those signs, listening to those signs. When you have that conversation with Source and you give permission and then you follow through with those nudges, like now you are playing with fire. Like you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable. You have tapped into, you're fully utilizing the resources that the universe has made available to you. And so if it's an easier way to make sense of this, I would say have a conversation with yourself daily that allows you the space and reminds you and gives you permission to follow your intuition at all times. That's the lesson. That is the lesson of today. This is the message of today. I've really been thinking about this a lot because of last week's episode, where I really was reminded of the need to remember the basics, no matter what level of your spiritual journey that you're in. The basics are the support. And so these are things like talking to God, remembering that you are not alone. These are things like remember to pause, move your body, connect with your breath. These basics are always there for us. And sometimes we get so advanced that we forget the simple things, you know? You can't get so far into high level math that you forget your arithmetic. Like, it's not how it works. You need that. That's your core. And so I'm really reminded of the power of talking to God, because I have been remembering to have these conversations, whether it's out loud, quietly in my mind, or writing in my journal. I've been having them daily, and the synchronicities are just so loud and so many. It feels crazy that I haven't been tapping into this further. Like, what the heck? It's the simplest of things. So go forth, try it out. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Come hang out with me on Friday Night Live Dive on my YouTube page at Coaching with Cree, or you can search by my name, Christelle Robinson Human. Every Friday, 6 p.m. EDT, I go live and we discuss the topics of the podcast. Come and let me know. Commune and tell me your own way. Tell me what that looks like. How do you do it? Because it can look like anything. It doesn't matter. Remember, and this is not, also, I know I said, about Catholicism. That's how I was raised, and I really do not feel connected to it in any way. This is not to bash any religion. Like, my mother is still a very devout Catholic, and it works for her. It gives her a lot of strength. And so you can do this in any form and in any way. But the key that I want to stress to you, like, if you're sitting there and you're just like, it doesn't work, my prayers don't work, is there truth in it? Is your frequency of truth in it? Like, my little kid self knew that when I was sitting there and saying, thank you for this, and this felt good, and I'm so happy about that, it felt like it rang true to truth, because my little kid self was in pure celebration most of the time. I was a very happy, excited kid, and that felt true. But when I sat there and I was just like, in a completely disconnected way, like, please give me world peace, like we were told, like, well, to ask for things that I didn't even understand or feel connected to, or like, I wanted a toy, just to ask for it into nothing. Like, who am I at? Like, what does this mean? It didn't feel like anything. It felt like nothing, and it didn't really make sense to me, because I didn't understand what I was doing or who I was talking to. There was no connection. But as soon as I was speaking words that felt like truth to me, that felt like an attunement to me, there was connection, and that is the difference. So use your frequency of truth, tap into your truth, tap into your heart, speak from there, and I promise you, there is an impact. You will feel it, you will see it. And come hang out with me on Friday and let me know how that goes. I love you. I hope you have the most wonderful week, and I will see you next time.